Think big, think positive. Never show any sign of weakness. Always go for the throat. Buy low, sell high. Fear, that's the other guy's problem. Nothing you have ever witnessed will prepare you for the absolute carnage you're about to witness. It's Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I am your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have a co-founder and CEO of Sudden Coffee, who is passionate about more than just serving up a great cup of coffee. After launching several businesses that ended in some success and even more failures, this man knew he needed to find his why. This led him to founding Sudden Coffee on the idea of making 1 billion people happy. Today, Sudden Coffee has served over 100,000 cups of their single origin, specialty grade instant coffee delivered right to your door. He's an entrepreneur, he's caffeinated, and driven to the next level. Thrive Loud fans, I bring you Josh Zloof. Josh, how are you today?
Hey, great. How are you doing?
Josh is reaching to us from California. We're doing the cross-continental podcast here. He's got an interesting business, an interesting story. I love this concept of making people happy. So Josh, if you could, share with the Thrive Loud fans a little bit of your journey on how this all came to be.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me. So I founded Sudden Coffee. So at Sudden Coffee, we make single origin crystallized coffee. It's basically really, really amazing coffee that you can have anywhere. So quick rundown, I started out my career, I got really interested in industrial engineering, just the idea of how you could make something super, super efficient. I was in a restaurant at a McDonald's and I just became obsessed with, why there was a really long line at this particular McDonald's. And I wanted to just figure out how you could, make it a better experience for people. And after that, I became a consultant. My life revolved around that idea of making things super efficient. And I did that for a few years. And then I went into making apps for restaurants. And and this was at Groupon, and I started to see that going to a restaurant, whenever you're serving people food or drinks, it's this really magical experience where you can make someone feel good just by acknowledging them, just by making them feel human, just by bringing something special into their day. And that was really the inspiration for me to get into food and drink myself. And so, as you said, I tried out a whole bunch of different ideas and eventually met with my co-founder, and he was the one who got me really excited about coffee specifically. And we founded Sudden with really that goal in mind of how do you use this really great coffee to make people feel good in a really small but special way throughout their day.
Okay, let's break this down into its components here. First of all, help us understand the specifics of the coffee itself. Is it, it's single origin, specialty grade, and it's instant, and it goes delivered to your door. So how do we make this coffee? Is it through a regular brewing machine, or is there a special machine for Sudden Coffee?
Yeah, so as a customer, you basically get tubes of coffee. It comes in a little test tube, and all you do is you stir it with hot water. It also mixes with cold water if you want an iced coffee. You don't need a machine. You don't need any special equipment. You just mix it with water and stir, and you'll have a really great cup of coffee.
Okay, wow. So now, where are you getting your coffee from?
So we work with different roasters. We work with folks like Intelligentsia, Equator Coffee, Ritual Coffee. And what we do is we buy beans from them that are already roasted, and then we invented an entirely new way to first brew the coffee, and then we freeze dry it, and then we package it in single servings. And so our secret sauce is really in taking, when you go to a great cafe, the baristas there are very highly trained in brewing coffee in this way that's really gentle, but also extracts the best part out of the coffee bean. And we figured out a way to do that at scale and also to then preserve it in a way that locks in all of the aromatics. And
So,
so,
yeah, keep going. I want to hear more about this.
yeah, so it looks like traditional instant coffee, but it's made in an entirely different way.
So it's delivered in a test tube. So talk to me about like when you receive a package, how does that look to the consumer? What are they receiving from you in those like several test tubes? I'm thinking test tube. I went straight to like the 10th grade chemistry. Show me what this thing looks like from your perspective, what you receive.
Yeah, so it comes in. It's like an oversized matchbox container, and inside you'll have eight of these little tubes, and then we also include a card about each coffee. So we use single origin coffees, and that means that every coffee comes from a very specific farm. All of the beans are from that one farm. It's really similar to wine. How you might get wine from
Yeah.
Bordeaux from a specific winery. And so we do that with coffee, and you'll get this really cool story about where the coffee came from, who made it, what's special about it with each box.
How many different types of specialty grades does Southern Coffee offer? I mean, I guess like how many breweries, so to speak, or coffee brewers do you actually get the beans from?
So we on our website you can get two coffees at any given time, and we rotate the coffee every 3 months. So every 3 months you'll have a different light roast and a different medium roast. And more recently, we started to work with a lot more roasters. So we work with now 5 different roasters in total, and that list is growing. And we're figuring out how to. You can buy them at the roasters' locations as well. And pretty soon we're going to start offering a lot more options on our website too.
Okay, and now I want to get to another business aspect of this, and that is obviously that you deliver this to your door. So there is no Sudden Coffee location aside from the factory that ships it out, correct?
Yeah, so we ship out most of the coffee actually off of from our factory, and then you can also buy it on Amazon. But we are now getting into different retail locations, which is super exciting. So you can buy it at Andronico's markets in the Bay Area. We're hopefully soon going to be in Whole Foods, and we're trying to make it more available in local grocery stores.
So now I want to go back into this efficiency thing. We recently had a really fun guest on the program, Andrew Tarvin, who is all about putting systems and efficiency. He even talks about humor that works. He actually is trying to figure out how to most efficiently or effectively incorporate humor, and actually even measures it. So he's very data analytic, and it sounds like you guys are he's always about figuring out the best process to do something. So
Yeah.
connect to me, I guess, how you went from looking at the consultant side of efficiencies and processes to making this coffee in this particular way. Was it not only about great coffee and making people happy and smile, but also the uniqueness of the process of distributing the coffee?
Yeah. So both of those things combine to make Sudden Coffee happen. So I'll give you a really early example. So when we started out, we bought one of these consumer grade freeze dryers, and the very first coffee we made, we just took regular, like we'd brew a pot of coffee, we'd put it into a freeze dryer, and we'd freeze dry it. And the freeze dryer cycle would run for 3 days, and we would get 6 cups of coffee out of that process. So it was like really, really inefficient. And so that's sort of where the industrial engineer in me kicked in and said, okay, well, how do we optimize this process? And then looking at it, we quickly realized, okay, well, freeze drying is going to be the hardest part in this whole thing. And freeze drying, it's limited by how much water you can remove going into it. So if we can figure out something that is more concentrated than a pot of coffee, we can get more out of the freeze dryer. And so our next step was, okay, well, what's more concentrated than regular coffee? Espresso. Espresso is actually 10 times more concentrated than a regular cup of coffee. And so the second stage of our business was, okay, well, why don't we make espresso shots? We made them one at a time, which took a lot of manual labor, but we were able to get 60 cups of coffee now out of every 3-day freeze dryer cycle instead of just 6. And so, basically probably every few months, I'll take our end-to-end manufacturing process and supply chain and say, okay, what is the highest cost element in it today, and how do we cut that in half? And then, the bottleneck moves to the next thing, and then I go through the same process over and over again. And so to give you an idea, when we first started, 1 cup of Sudden used to cost us $6 to make. And now we're at the point where we're able to make it for under $1. And so that took a lot of engineering and a lot of research to make that work.
So now I'm going to get into the business side here, and then a little bit about you running this company. Talk to me about what you've learned about coffee behaviors, right? Because we've had a lot of interesting guests and a lot of people focused on coffee. Some people are about creating that coffee experience and the culture behind it. And like you said, sitting in a cafe. Other people are just need the octane and need the caffeine to get them charged in whatever level. You're doing an interesting piece because you're getting people this coffee either to their home or place of work, wherever they order it, and interjecting on the way that they produce and consume it. What have you learned in this thing about the specific niche that you've hit versus the way that other coffee providers are tapping the market?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question. I think we've learned that people are a lot more in the middle than we like to believe. And so what I mean by that is, there's this very, very high end of the market where people know exactly, that we refer to them with the friendly term coffee geek in the industry. And they will, go to the extent of roasting their own beans at home, or they'll go to cafes and they'll want to know exactly what the origin is. They'll want to know what the elevation is, et cetera. And then, there's people on the other side of the spectrum who, are totally fine with Folgers, and, they're really just using it as a way to get caffeine. And that's great too. And a lot of people come to us and they say, well, you're neither here nor there, so I don't really see how there's a market for this, because, you're not the best of the best. Like, I could make better coffee at home if I roasted it, and, you're not as cheap as Folgers, so I don't really get it. And I think what we realized is the majority of Americans are actually somewhere in the middle. People, even people who are going to, cafes out here that you folks have heard of are like, Blue Bottle or Intelligentsia or Equator. The people who are going to these places and getting single origin coffees, they don't actually necessarily know what that means. They just want something that tastes good. And a word that comes up oftentimes is made by a person. Like, I ask them, why are you buying this coffee versus, going to Starbucks? And they'll say, I like that it's made by a person. They don't use the word handmade, but there's this idea that they're connecting with someone. Right. But like the specifics around, what the elevation is, or is it from Ethiopia or Colombia, for us in the coffee world, I could tell you why that does make a difference, but the average person, they just want something that makes them feel good. And I think when we had that realization, that was really great. It aligned with what we wanted to do for people. And it just kind of made sense with the idea of hospitality. Like, it's really about a human connection. And I think that's been a really cool insight that we figured out.
From a business point of view, help me understand, Josh. I guess you can obviously do the direct to consumer route where people are ordering and they're buying from online and getting coffee there. Do you have plans to partner with other places, hotels, resorts, and places that would look for Sudden Coffee as an avenue, because of the fact that that's a perfect place? I travel a lot and I go into a lot of hotel rooms and they always have some kind of coffee there. That would actually be something useful in that particular place. How are you trying to grow the reach of Sudden Coffee?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we were the most focused on right now, to be honest. So we originally were just direct to consumer, and we started to realize that the majority of people don't buy coffee online, and we wanted to just introduce it to people in different ways. And so recently we've started really focusing on partnerships with other roasters. And so what that means is you go into any of these cafes and you can buy Sudden next to the counter, and the barista is educated on our product and can tell you a little bit more about why it's different or what makes it special. And so that's what we're doing now to sort of increase the reach. And then the next step after that, we would of course love to be in hotels. We'd love to be in airlines. We need to make it a bit cheaper for that to work. That's sort of the next threshold for us. But that's sort of the long-term plan. Absolutely. And you can already, by the way, buy it at a few airports. For example, you can buy it in San Francisco airport. You can buy it in Boston. So it is spreading out to those locations.
So give me a little bit of the realm of what it's like running the company, from being a consultant and working with other clients, and then doing something on your own. How has that experience been for you personally, Josh? Not only you're dealing with product and development, you're dealing with employees, you've got client issues and marketing issues. How has been sitting in that role, that experience been? Is it, no pun intended, does it perk you up every day?
Yeah.
That was so cheap. I apologize to the production team.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Coffee puns always. It's been great. It's definitely, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Every day is a different day. And I think within a 4-hour period, I'll go from, evaluating a new piece of factory equipment to meeting with a roaster, to getting into finances, to working on interviewing or hiring new team members. And so it's this constant, really jack of all trades job, which has been really fun. I think, there's been different stages of the company. I think for me, in the early stages of founding a company were particularly hard, like very emotionally trying. And so I think that, that kind of comes with the territory. I think the downside, for folks listening who are thinking about starting companies is, I definitely miss sometimes, I was a product manager, you can just spend hours refining something and making it perfect, like, designed really perfectly. And when you're founding a company, there's so much around just getting things done very quickly that, a lot of things sometimes feel like they're duct taped together, but they work. And I think that's been a really interesting mode to get used to.
So I love asking these questions of most of the guests that come on the show, Josh, and it's related to that role that you're in being a leader of a company, and it's new. And like you said, you never know what any day would bring. So on the days that you're not truly thriving, who do you seek, or what practice do you turn to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Yeah. So, I definitely refer to this as sort of like my self-care strategies. I have both a management coach, I have a therapist, and then on top of it, for me, I found that, I start every morning by reading a non-work related book, so it's usually fiction or like a biography, and then I'll meditate while I'm drinking a cup of coffee. But then when I really need a break, for me, it's going out and listening to live music. I also go to Burning Man, which has been a really big influence for Sudden Coffee. It really is a place where I learned service, where I was serving people or building something for people. And that is, for me, is also a self-care outlet of just building something that's not work related, that is just purely artistic.
It's an amazing event. I've not been to it. I've had a lot of good friends who have gone and continue to say, you belong there. It's just tough to get away at that time of year for me.
Yeah.
But that's great. It's great
Totally.
to hear, and I totally love that idea. And now I was going to go into an area that I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe I'd asked this earlier. Have you always been a lover of coffee? I know that sounds a little bit interesting, or was this something that you kind of found through this journey?
Yeah. I always loved coffee, at least from a functional perspective. And then I think year over year, I grew up in the Bay Area, but I started my career in Boston just to experience the East Coast. And I came back, and I was fortunate enough to live around the corner from a specialty cafe. And so that was really my first introduction into really great coffee. And then I more got into fine dining and food. I was working on this app that was kind of like Square for high-end restaurants. So spending all this time in bars and restaurants and cafes and experiencing just what the craft that went into these things. But I really got into it after I met my co-founder. So I was already drinking all this great coffee, but I wasn't really, like, if someone had said, this coffee tastes like blueberry, I was the first person to say, like, I don't really believe that. I don't know what you're talking about, but it tastes good, but really blueberry. And then he took me through a coffee tasting for the first time. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. This is real. This is awesome. and it felt really aligned. I'd already been sort of searching for something either in food or drink or whatever. So that was already there. And coffee was just a really
It's
great
awesome
outlet
stuff,
for
Josh.
that.
And I got to tell you, it's really funny when you think a space has tapped itself completely into all the different avenues you can go into. It only continues to grow, and it's actually an interesting take that you've gone in with this. Everyone's been going into those specialty stores or specialty machines or the special type of ways of doing it, and you're going to the way that had been going for a while, but upgrading the process and the piece. I think that's really great, and definitely something I will definitely try, but also something that makes perfect sense. And I love the efficiency that you've put into the business. So kudos to you on all of this. Do me a favor, Josh. Let's use this time now. Go to the admin stuff. Share with all the listeners all the places we can learn more about Sudden Coffee, about you, social media, links, etc. So we will put it in the show notes. But it's always better when we hear it from you.
Yeah, so best place is suddencoffee.com. You can check out our website. You can buy it there. You can also find us on Amazon. And then if you want to just learn more, there's a lot of great videos on YouTube, also our Instagram page and our Facebook page. We try to just, keep it going with things that we're working on. And yeah, we created a discount code for anyone who's listening. If you use Thrive Loud when you check out on our website, you'll have a little discount just for listening.
And we will put all those links and the Thrive Loud discount code in the show notes so people can find it and they can get to you, which will be very, very cool. A couple more fun questions here, Josh, before we run away. I am dying to know this part. So you have now been running this company. What does it look like right now from an infrastructure point of view? How many people are at Sudden Coffee, the organization itself?
There are 8 of us now.
And what is the growth plan for you guys? What are you trying to make Sudden Coffee become suddenly?
Yeah. So our plan now is all around expanding into more roasters and expanding into retail. Our goal, I think, 6 months from now, I want to see us working with about 20 roasters. Imagine if you walk into Whole Foods and there is a new instant coffee aisle where you'll see, 20 boxes from 20 of your favorite roasters, and they're all made by us. And so we're working on beefing up our operations team. We're working on hiring someone for partnerships. If anyone there is interested or geeks out on this stuff, definitely check our website and shoot us a note if you're interested.
This is great stuff, Josh. We're going to wrap this up here with 2 questions because I think we'll go with the standard Thrive Loud question here because I am curious to see where this goes. Josh, Zloof, your all-time favorite movie?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Okay. Can I do a show and a movie? Okay, so only based on this one week where I watched it 20 times in a row, I would say Avatar. Okay. I really like weird fantasy epic types of things. Also, there's this show on Netflix called The Last Kingdom, which is a sort of like Game of Thrones type of show that I think is really underrated and super good. So definitely watch that.
Every time I saw the movie Avatar, there were 2 things that happened. One, I just could not believe how I just watched an entire movie of avatars and all the CGI that was going on in there. And then the other part was I literally wanted to go in and like apologize to every Native American person I ever ran into because the analogy of, the industrialized, stronger economy coming into more of the natives and taking over the land and destroying things always made people, what were we doing? But wonderful movies and great stuff. And I've heard about that show on Netflix. I have not seen it, but I'll put it on my list. So thanks for sharing that. So now, Josh, you get to pick one flavor of coffee to drink for the rest of your life. Obviously, aside from your own brand of Sudden Coffee, is there a specific blend or flavor that you want?
Yeah, I love coffees from Ethiopia. Okay. Single origins. They're really fruity. I had one from Ritual Coffee over the weekend because it's around the corner for me. That it tasted almost like strawberry. It was really, really good. And I'm not making that. If you have it side by side with another coffee, you can actually taste some fruitiness. So definitely try coffees from Ethiopia.
I like this. I can't even believe that there was coffee that tasted like blueberries, but now I've got ones that are like strawberries. So I'm getting out there. I'm going to try them all. Awesome. Josh Zloof, man, thank you so much for coming on the program. This is great stuff. Sudden Coffee, continued success. Best of luck and keep thriving loud.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Just relax and let your mind go blank. It shouldn't be hard for you.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, you lucky person you. As long as you're not a weirdo, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please, I'm begging you. We're really cool. Also, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come on, I know you all have those social media platforms and you use them on the daily. If not, find us on the web at thriveloud.com. It was nice thriving with you, and see you next time.